Sairam. Sairam.
Sairam.
Sairam, everybody.
Saram, Angajan, yes, we can listen, we can hear you well, and you can mute everybody.
Sound is good. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Please join us for the chanting of the Purusha Suktam.
Om Tachayora Pranimahe Gayajnaya Gatvi Yajnapataye Devi Swastirastunaha Swastirmanushyebhyah Utvam Vigatu Veshajam Shanno Astu Dvipade Shanjatushpade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sahasrashirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapa Sabhumim Vishvato Vritva Atyatishtabdashangulam Purusha evedagum sarvam Yadbhutay yachabhavyam Udamritatvasyeshanaha Yadannenatirohati Etavanasya mahima Atho jaya guscha purushaha Padosya vishvabhutani Tripadasya divi Tripadudva uday purushaha Padosyeha bhavat punaha Tadho vishvan vyakramata Sashananashane abhi Tasmad virarajayata Virajo adhipurushaha Sajato atyarichyata Paschad bhumimato puraha Yat purushena havisha Deva yajnamatanmata वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यम् ग्रीष्म इद्मः शरदविः सप्तास्यासन् परिदयः त्रिसप्तसमिधः कृताः देवा यज्ञं तन्वानाः अबध्नन् पुरुषं पशुं तैयज्ञं बर्हिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषं जातमग्रतः तेन देवा अयजन्त सार्या ऋषयश्च ये तस्माद् यज्ञात् सर्व उतः संवृतं पृषदाज्यम् पशुगुस्तागुश्चक्रे वायव्यान् आरण्यान् ग्राम्याश्च ये तस्माद् यज्ञात् सर्व उतः सामानि जग्निरे छन्दागुंसि जग्निरे तस्मात् यजुस्तस्मादजायत तस्मादश्च अजायन्त ये केचोभयादतः गावो हजग्निरे तस्मात् तस्मात् जाता अजावयः यत्पुरुषं व्यदधुः गतिदा व्यकल्पयन् मुखं किमस्य कौ बाहु काऊरुपादावुच्येते ब्राह्मणोऽस्य मुखमासीत् बाहुराजन्यकृतः ऊरुतरस्य यद्वैश्यः पद्व्यागुं शूद्रो अजायत चन्द्रमा मनसो जातः चक्षो सूर्यो अजायत मुखादिन्द्रश्चाग्निश्च प्राणाद्वायुरजायत नाभ्या आसीदन्तरिक्षम् शीर्ष्णोद्यौ समवर्तत पद्भ्यां भूमिर्दिशः श्रोत्रात् तथा लोकागुम् अकल्पयन् वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसस्तु पारे सर्वाणि रूपाणि विचित्य धीरः नामानि कृत्वा विवदन् यदास्ते दाता पुरस्ताद्यमुदा जहार शक्रप्रविद्वान् प्रदिशश्च तस्थः तमेवं विद्वान् अमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था अयनाय विद्यते यज्ञेन यज्ञमयजन्त देवाः तानि धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् देहनाकं महिमान सचन्ते यत्र पूर्वे साध्या सन्ति देवाः.
Sai Ram, I give everybody once again delighted to have you back today in our journey of understanding the glory of Purusha, Purusha Suktam. Sisters and brothers, we as humanity are veiled by three levels of ignorance, ajnanam. The three levels of ignorance are very simple for us to understand. They are called, I would say, I don't know. The first layer of ignorance. The second layer of ignorance is, I don't understand. I know, but I don't understand. Then the third layer of ignorance, I understand, but I am not able to practice it. I'm not able to bring it into my life and bring it into action. So these are the three layers of ignorance that every one of us are caught up in. Some people may be less, some people may be more, but every one of us. So our attempt is to remove these three layers of ignorance that we are caught up in. The first layer of ignorance, I don't know. I've heard of the PURUSA SUKTAM. I chant PURUSA SUKTAM. I even know the translation in English of the PURUSA SUKTAM. So the first layer of ignorance is eradicated by this interaction of knowledge that you and me are fortunate to participate. So when I'm speaking to you and you're listening to what I'm talking, remember, you are only able to remove the first layer of ignorance. This is called, in order to remove the first layer of ignorance, the Vedas gives us the practice that is called Shravana Listening. So when you are listening to me, sitting thousands of miles away, the first layer of ignorance gets eradicated gradually. Now I know PURUSA SUKTAM. But then that's all a guru can do. Guru can do that completely. To give you, to help you eradicate the first phase of ignorance, I don't know. The second phase of ignorance is called I don't understand. How do we remove the second phase of ignorance? That is where your self-effort, purushartha, has to come in. Gurus, sages and saints, masters, despite your best devotion and reverence to him, they are helpless when it comes to the second and the third phase of ignorance. In fact, in the second phase of ignorance that I don't understand, they can help us partially. They can help us to reflect. So in order to eradicate the second phase of ignorance, we need to put in self-effort through manana, that is reflection. So having listened to what I'm saying, there is a lot of homework you have to do. Unfortunately, I cannot get into your mind and create that engineering to make you reflect. You got to reflect yourself. So that process is called manana. So how do you reflect? What do we do in order to reflect? Shastras tells us you got to question, prashna. Bhagavad Gita says, pariprashnena sevaya. Quality of a student, a true spiritual seeker, is one who engages in explicit question with implicit surrender, devotion to the masters. So when you are pausing question, what is it? When is it? Where is it? Why is it? How is it? you are exercising your manana, your thinking ability, your questioning, your intellectual faculty. And when you question the Upanishads, the Shastras, like the Purusha Suktam, the Vedic mantras, and the message, you are engaging the Sukshma Buddhi, that is the subtle intellect that we discussed yesterday, remember. And having reflected, we still have the third phase of ignorance. That is where your experiment through reflection, and then you meditate and you experiment these principles in your own life. Study of Vedas, study of Vedanta, study of the Vedam is an experimental science. Just as when you study any science subject, for example, chemistry, you may have the best respect for the scientist who discovered the law. But then you accept it not based on the authority of the scientist who discovered it. You accept it on the merit of your own first-hand experience by you experimenting in the laboratory. Similarly, these truths that the Vedas expound, you and me can actually experiment it. That is called nididhyasana. So, having listened to the Purusha Suktam in these 6 sessions that we are fortunate to be engaged in, you got to go back and reflect and contemplate, especially a subtle shastra like Purusha Suktam, one of the most prominent among all the Suktams. The best time to assimilate is in the early hours of the morning, Brahma Muhurtam, the holy hour, the most auspicious time that, as you all know. So the 3 phases of ignorance that we need to eradicate. So when you are listening to this discourse on the Purusha Suktam, remember, you are only eradicating the first phase and maybe partially the second phase. So in the first verse that we discussed yesterday, the truth that was revealed in the serene mind of Narayana Rishi, the Purusha Suktam is the revelation in the mind of Narayana Rishi. That is why it is called a Shruti. It says, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. Sahasraksha. Purusha is one with 1,000 heads. Sahasra Shirsha. Now we as inquirer on the truths of Purusha Suktam or Vedam, we don't simply accept and say, okay, Purusha has got 1,000 head. What does that mean? I must tell you the style of the Vedic scriptures, Upanishads, etc. The style of Suktam or Vedas is that they do not put truths straightforward, plain and simple. They put it so indirectly that you and me, as the students of this celebrated Shastra, we need to exercise our thinking to contemplate and understand what the Shastra is trying to convey. If those Shastras were presented so simple and plain, it will have no value. because we will not put in that effort. Anything that you have put in effort and struggled to achieve, you value it. So when Purusha Suktam says that Purusha is with 1,000 heads and 1,000 eyes, immediately we might stretch our imagination. What is that being with 1,000 heads and 1,000 eyes? That is when our contemplation should come in. What could he be saying? We analyzed yesterday with the slide presentation. Purusha is the divinity within. At the same time, that Purusha is all-pervading. For the benefit of, I don't know if any one of you who were not there yesterday, that Purusha is not the opposite of Stri, which is the, what you call this, masculine gender and feminine gender. So this word Purusha is general, the neuter gender. Three, we discussed yesterday, one who's caught up in the clutches of the three gunas, sattva, tamas, and rajas, sa, ta, ra. So what that means, not only the ladies are caught up in the sattva, rajas, and tamas, the entire humanity. Only a person who reached the state of God consciousness is true Purusha, because he or she has liberated himself or herself from the clutches of the three gunas. That person is real Purusha. So when the Atman functions through the eyes, you become the seer. When the same Purusha or the Atman functions through your ear, you become the hearer. When the same Atman functions through your nose to smell fragrance, you become the smeller. Similarly, the same Atman functions through your organs of actions. You become the actor. When the same Atman enlivens your mind, you feel various emotions, you become the feeler. Similarly, the same Purusha, divinity, enlivens our intellect, you become the thinker and contemplator. So when Narayana Rishi reveals to us, Purusha is with 1,000 eyes, meaning it is that divinity functions through all the eyes in the universe, not only human beings, all the living beings. And it is not confined to this world. It says it remains 10 fingers surplus. Atyatishta dashangulam, beyond the 5 elements, beyond the mind, intellect, ego, chit, and maya. What is this world composed of? The 5 elements? Pancha Mahabhuta, space, air, fire, water, and earth. And that makes up the mind, intellect, ego, and chit. And then maya. That makes it 10. And it is also in 10 directions. All the 8 directions above and below. And then he continues the discussion in the second verse, second mantra.
Purusha evedagum sarvam yad bhutay yachabhavyam udamritatvasyeşanah yadanmena tirohati.
You know, when we actually read these mantras, it is so inspiring. You should get goosebumps. just to listen to the chanting of the mantra itself. You must feel the energy, potency in those mantras. When he says, Purusha evedam sarvam. Purusha eva idam sarvam. Idam means all this. Purusha eva. Everything that we are experiencing, everything that we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, that is Purusha. Where is that supreme reality? Where is that Purusha? In fact, when you go to Isavasya Upanishads, I'm sure you're all familiar, very similar, identical words. You know, he says, Isavasya midam sarvam. Isha vasya midam sarvam. Isha means Lord. Everything here is God. Where is God? Where is that supreme reality? Simply put, what Narayana Rishi is saying, where is God? Everything that we are experiencing is God. Masterpiece. That's the very first mantra in the Isavasya Upanishads. It's like, you know, your favorite cricketer. Let's say India and Pakistan is playing World Cup final. You know, it's very relishing just to think about itself, isn't it? That idea of both the countries, I mean, that rivalry in every sense. And the opener, whoever it is now, I don't know. The fast bowler from Pakistan side, the very first ball in the World Cup, hit for a 6. What's that feeling? It's like that. So when he says, Purusha eva idam sarvam, everything that we are experiencing is Purusha, nothing else. Then, obviously, you must reflect. I'm sure you're thinking about, if everything that we are experiencing is Purusha, God, the supreme reality, why we are experiencing all this multiplicity? Why you and me are experiencing the pluralistic phenomena of things and beings? If everything is Purusha, if I were to give an example, this is an example that is used in the Shastras. As you know, there are 3 states of consciousness: the waking state of consciousness, the dream, and the deep sleep state of consciousness. All the dream and the dream experiences are nothing but the expression of waker's mind. One ray of waker's mind becomes the dreamer. Another ray of waker's mind becomes the dreamer's spouse. A third ray of the mind becomes the dreamer's child, the house, the flora and fauna. Everything that you experience in the dream is nothing but a projection of the waker's mind. In the same way that everything that we are experiencing is that Purusha. To use the classic example that is used in the Purana, in the Vedas, the snake and the rope analogy. Rope is the reality, the snake is the illusion. On a twilight night, twilight time in the evening rather, if you were to take a walk into your garden and closer to your boundary wall, you see something dark that looks like a snake. and you go closer and you got the confirmation it is a snake, and you start screaming and shouting, snake, snake. And somebody else from the family comes and looks at it, and he disturbed that, and he realized it's not a snake, it's a rope. The rope is the reality, the snake is the illusion. The rope pervades the entire snake. In the same way that this world, Swami Ramatirtha gives a beautiful scientific explanation as to what, if everything is Isha, if everything is Supreme Purusha, why do we not experience that? Why do we not experience that Supreme Purusha? He says, he uses the analogy or the example of carbon. If you take a piece of diamond, what is diamond made of? What is the basic component of diamond? Carbon. If you take a piece of charcoal, what is charcoal made of? Carbon. Science proves it. We can experiment it in the laboratory. Both diamond and charcoal are basically composed of carbon, and yet you find those two manifestations of carbon have diametrically opposite characteristics. That diamond is so hard, it can cut through a strong steel, a hardened steel. Charcoal is so soft, it can make mark on paper. Diamond is bright, brilliant, shining. Charcoal is black. Diamond is so precious and it's rare. Charcoal, you can find it lying all over. And yet both of these, carbon, the diamond and charcoal is made of carbon, basic component. But the same carbon in different permutation and combination, under certain pressure and temperature, it forms, it changes its manifestation. Similarly, this world is nothing but that Purusha. Its manifestations appear differently to us. That is what we need to read when the Purusha Suktam says, Purusha eva idam sarvam. Nothing else. And he says, yat bhutam yat cha bhavyam. Meaning, everything that we experience is Purusha. Of course, not only what we are experiencing, whatever that was, that is bhudam, and yet cha bhavyam, that is yet to come. That which was, that which is, and that which will be. Everything is that Supreme Purusha. This is a declaration of truth. The first line, generally, the Suktams, even when you go to the Upanishads, the style is that first one or two verses is a declaration of truth, and then they move on to the explanation of truth. So here it is the declaration of the truth that there is nothing but Isha, the Supreme, just as all the ornaments that we see, the earring, the necklace, the bangles, the ring, the anklets, chains, everything is nothing but gold and gold and gold alone. You go to a jewelry shop and you can see hundreds of jewelries in different shapes and sizes. And the salesman says, all that you see here is nothing but gold. But you and me as a customer looks at it and say, that's a chain, that's a ring, this is a bangle, this is an anklet, this is a necklace, etc. Those are simply names and forms. That is the underlying message here. Water. Water has got different modifications and manifestations. It manifests as steam, it manifests as ice, it can express as snow or water, froth and foam and ripples, but everything is nothing but simply H2O. That is the underlying message. Isavasyamidam sarvam. So we also need to understand, many people tend to carry the impression that God has created the world. He says, God did not create the world. World is God. This world that is manifested is that Supreme Purusha. And that which was, which is, and which will be. All right. The test of reality. What is the test of reality? Reality is that which persists. That which existed in the past, which exists now, and it will continue to exist in the future. That is the reality. Whereas this world that we are experiencing is an expression of that supreme reality. And he says, Uta amritatva ishanaha. He is the Lord of immortality. Amritatva ishana. Ishana means Lord. Amritatva meaning immortality. The opposite of immortality obviously is mortality. Deathlessness means birthlessness, or death means birth. So basically he's saying is that Purusha is the Lord of this changes. Birth and death simply means changes. When we say change, what does it mean? It's simply a process of birth and death. Night dies giving birth to morning, morning dies giving birth to noon, noon dies giving birth to afternoon, afternoon dies giving birth to evening. In the process of birth and death, this day is maintained. Sunday dies giving birth to Monday, Monday dies giving birth to Tuesday, so on and so forth. In this process, a week is maintained. Seed perishes giving birth to sapling and to tree. Now, then why is he saying Purusha is the Isha, the Lord of immortality? It is the Lord of changes because all the changes are noticed with reference to a changeless entity. Without a changeless entity, we cannot notice the changes. That is the law. If you are flying in an aeroplane, an aircraft, 35,000 feet above the ground, sea level, if you pull up the window and look outside the window, and if everything that you see is a big splash of whiteness all over, you will not feel the movement of the plane, would you? No, because everything is same outside. But the moment you come across a cloud outside, the cloud is changeless. With reference to the changeless cloud, you can feel the movement of the plane. So the law is that with reference to the changeless entity, you are able to notice the changes. So when Purusha Suktam says, Amritatva Ishanaha, the Lord of immortality, the Lord of changes. With reference to that changeless reality, we are able to experience the changes. In you and me as the individual, when you were a child, you said, I'm a child. When you grew up to be a boy, a youth, you said, I'm a youth. And then you grow up to be a young man, and then a middle-aged man, and then the old man. In all these, your body, mind, intellect have changed. The body that you possess today is not the same body that you possessed 10 years before. It was better, it was younger. Isn't it? Similarly, your emotions. The emotions that you experience today, depending upon your age, have changed, and it will continue to change. Similarly, your thinking pattern. Your thinking pattern when you were in your teens and 20s, totally different from when you are in your 40s and 50s and 60s. Body changes. Even medical science tells you, if you walk into an office room and you come out after 1 hour's meeting, the body has changed. You may not be able to notice the changes. You are able to notice the changes after a long period of time. Let's say if you take the photograph that you took yesterday and the photograph that you took today, you cannot see any difference. But if you take the photograph 10 years ago and the photographs now, you can see the change. And you are able to notice the change with reference to a changeless entity. And what is the changeless entity? That I am. I am a child. I am a boy. I am a youth. I am a man. I am an old man. Boy is different from the youth. Youth is different from the man. Man is different from the old man. How can so many unequal factors be equal to one factor that is equal? I am. That I am, you are. That is what he's suggesting, that there is a changeless entity, the Purusha, within you and me, and it is not confined in me. It goes beyond. He says, Yat annena atirohati. That transcends everything grown by food. Then you might say, well, that Purusha is within me only. No, no, no. Yet annena atirohati. What that means is, it transcends everything that is produced by anna. Anna means food. So what is produced with food? Our physical body, gross body. Remember, you and me have 3 bodies. It's important for you to understand this concept. All right. We all have 3 bodies. All right. I draw your attention to the screen. All right. I'm sure you're able to see that. All right. The 3 bodies are gross body, which is the physical body. Then beyond the physical body is composed of the 5 organs of perception called jnanendriyas, 5 organs of action called karmendriyas. And beyond the gross body is the subtle body, which is composed of your manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. I would collectively put it as thoughts, desires, emotions, and thought. Beyond the subtle body, you have the causal body, karana sharira. So far, you thought you only have one body. One body itself is so difficult to maintain, isn't it? Because we have to put in so much of effort. Personal care, it's expensive and it's a lot of effort. And suddenly somebody is coming and telling you, you have 3 bodies. But the 3 bodies are nothing that you don't know. You know it already, beyond the physical body. So all the 3 bodies, namely the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body, are produced by food, anna. And it is maintained by food, and it ends up as food. When we die, we are buried, and our body becomes food for bacteria who decomposes it. Therefore, elsewhere, this body is called annamaya kosha, that is the food sheath. So when he says, yet Annena atirohati, meaning it transcends the body. It is beyond this body. It is not confined to the body. So that is the implication here. And then he continues in the third mantra.
एतावानस्य महिमा अथो जायागुश्च पूरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वभूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवि.
He says, Etavanasya mahima. The entire universe is the manifestation of his splendor, Purusha splendor. It's incredible. You see, the entire universe is Mahima. Mahima means splendor, glory, greatness. You know, these are all the English translations of the word Mahima. Etavan asya, his Mahima. Atho jayagumscha purushaha. His glory is more effulgent than this. Pado asya vishwa bhudani. Quarter of the Purusha is this creation. Tripadasya amritam divi. 3/4 is beyond the manifested world. That is the translation. Now, let us analyze. We don't have the luxury of time. We confined this study to 6 sessions deliberately. I mean, we could go on for 18 sessions. But then you need to go back and reflect upon it. So it should not be a process of spoon feeding. It doesn't help us. So any idea for that matter, when you put in effort, struggled, and you understood, that remains with you forever. Anything that you hear easily, casually, it will not stick with your mind. But anything that you struggled to understand, anything that you really wrestled intellectually to get to the understanding, grasping, it remains with you. That is the importance of manana. So by exercising manana, let us delve into these depth of these mantras. Etavan asya mahima, the glory. You know, when you look at the world, all right, you look at the things and beings particularly. When you look at any creature, any animal, the engineering of that animal must remind us of that supreme Purusha. Simple things like the animal kingdom, you know, in the ashram in India that I spent about 11 years, it is in the hills of Kandala, in Malavali Hills near Kandala. And it was the best part of my 11 years of my life. Our day starts 4 o'clock in the morning, meticulously every single day. And even now, that habit continued into my life, and my family joins also. We are up at about 3:30, 3:45 in the morning, and our day ends by about 10 o'clock. And during monsoon, almost by appointment as it were, monsoon starts between 7th to 10th of June every single year. I have seen it for 11 years without fail. And that itself is who designed it? I mean, to me, that is wonder. Who designed it? For this, you might say that is nature. That is what PURUSA SUKTAM is saying. And not only that, as soon as the first rain comes, relentlessly for next 3 months, it just pours and pours and pours. That's it. Once in a while, you might get a dry spell. Otherwise, it's non-stop rain. And from the second or the third day, when the entire field is with puddles of water, you will find big size frogs, you know, fairly big size. frogs appearing. Until then, remember, during summer, March, April, May, it is scorching heat. Everything is brown. It is, you cannot see water, not even water vapor. Within 2 or 3 days, the moment the water puddles comes, the frog appear. Yeah, that's right. And they start croaking. Now, where are they? We call it, they are hibernating. But during the hibernation, who looks after them? There seems to be some supreme intelligence, some supreme power, beautifully orchestrating the entire universe, beautifully orchestrating the entire cosmos. To that supreme Purusha, my salutation, my oblations. That is what we need to understand from the verse. That is a splendor. Where is God? God is not stuck in the temple or a church or mosque. That Purusha Suktam calls it Purusha. You can call what you want. Even if you look at your own physical body, the engineering of the physical body is so meticulous. Scientists, despite their centuries of research and contemplation and thinking, many internal organs they were not able to create. For example, kidney, your pancreas. Who gave that intelligence to our kidney as a filter? You know, the doctor says our kidney is one of the most exquisitely designed filter. And our, you know, the pancreas, which senses the sugar content in our blood. If the sugar content is more, it produces insulin. And if the sugar content is less, it produces glucagon. Who gave that intelligence to pancreas to sense the sugar content? If you say, well, that is just nature, that is what we need to understand. That is the Mahima. That is the glory of the Purusha in this world. If you look at your hand, your hands are so ingeniously designed. Do you know that only human hand can interact with the other other 5 fingers? For example, your thumb finger can touch your little finger, your ring finger, middle finger, and index finger. Only human hands can do that. No animals can do that. And with this simple device called hand, what all we can do? We can play piano. We can write our words. We can slap a person. Don't do it. We can even walk with our hand if you train yourself. What all things that we can do? Who could have conceived such a device like this? Etavan asya mahima. Everything that you see and experience here is the glory, is the splendor, mahima of that supreme Purusha. And then he says, then you might wonder, you'll get an idea that, oh, now I understand. I understand what Purusha. Purusha is that which functions in all the living beings. Purusha enables the pancreas, the liver, the heart, you know, the heart. What an incredible organ. Heart is the only functional organ in the body. If you remove it from the body and place it outside, it can still function. And you can put it back. Who could have conceived such a device? It is the main engine in the body that pumps about 96,000 kilometers of blood vessels. It's at such an incredible speed. The blood is flowing. That is the Mahima of that Supreme Purusha. So you feel the divinity. You feel the presence of that Purusha. That is what we need to understand when we chant the Purusha Suktam. Then we feel the presence of God everywhere. So when we feel the presence of God, presence of Purusha everywhere, We don't need to go to the temple or a church or mosque, or in other words, everything becomes a temple. So you will get an idea that, okay, that Purusha is confined to the body. Then he clarifies, Ato Jayagumscha Purusha. His glory is more effulgent and all this. Now, if this manifestation of this world itself is so glorious, so wonderful, so dynamic, so potent, what could it be? It is like, supposing you are listening to a very celebrated musician, classical musician. You went for a kacheri, all right? And he really, really inspired you, put you into an emotional rapture with this, beautiful ragam that he sang. Wonderful. And then you appreciate, this is beautiful, this is wonderful. But that musician has got great other music, not only what you heard. In that 3 hours, you must have heard probably 8 or 10 songs, right? Kirtanams. But what he knows may be hundreds of kirtanams and many ragams that you have not heard. So in order to avoid confining your understanding of that Supreme Purusha limited to this world, he says, his glory is more effulgent than all this. Don't limit it. Remember, the process of education. The process of education is, education moves from known to the unknown. Remember this. Education moves from known to the unknown. You cannot know an unknown entity with another unknown entity. You need something known in order to understand the unknown. So the Supreme Purusha is unknown. In order to know that Supreme Purusha, we need something known. And what do we know? We know the world. When I say we know the world, we know very little about the world, but little bit we know. About Purusha, we don't even know the little bit of it. So he's drawing your attention to something known in order to make you understand the unknown Purusha. To give you an analogy, let us extrapolate our imagination. Let us say you know a family living in Manhattan, one of those high-class, exquisite, expensive apartment in Manhattan. A young man, he was born there, he grew up there, and everything in Manhattan, as you know, the way it is. And he's asking, what is clay? What is mud? He's never seen mud. What is clay? And if you want to explain to him what is clay, sitting in the 40th floor apartment, that luxury apartment in Manhattan, how would you explain clay to that boy who has never seen clay? Very difficult to explain. What is clay? You look around, and in the balcony outside, there are about half a dozen pots. And you draw that young man's attention and say, that is clay, the pot. So when you draw his attention and say, that is clay, immediately that boy forms the opinion, perception about the clay, that is it a particular shape, plate, particular color. And then you clarify that understanding by saying, no, it is the mud behind what you see is clay. Oh, I see, I understand. It is a material with which that pots are made is clay. And then that boy who never seen clay confines his understanding of clay limited to that pots. Then you tell him that mud is beyond, it's all over. It's not just confined. But what that boy knows at the moment is the pot. So you draw his attention to the pots to explain the unknown mud that is everywhere. In the same way, to explain that supreme reality, Purusha, he says, everything in the universe is Purusha. Isavasya midam sarvam. Etavanasya mahima. He says, this entire universe is the manifestation of his splendor. But then it is not only here. Then he says, Pado asya vishwa bhudani. Quarter of that Purusha is this creation. Then you wonder, one quarter, I mean, of course, that supreme Purusha cannot be quantified. You must understand the helplessness of these masters to convey, because the divinity cannot be quantified. So when he says quarter of that Purusha is this creation, don't take it literally. Now, what is this creation? Just imagine, let's say you are sitting in America, all right? And then, or go one step further, you're sitting in Boston, Massachusetts, and then America, and then the entire North America, and then South America, and then the entire globe, and then the entire solar system, and then the entire galaxy. And the astrophysicists say they claim that there are about 200 million galaxies. So all these millions of galaxies put together, in the light of those millions of galaxies, billions of kilometers away, this earth is a tiny little speck. And this galaxy itself is only 1/4. What could be the magnitude of that supreme Purusha? It is inconceivable. And then he says, Tripadasya Amritam Divi, beyond the manifested realm of immortality. That Purusha is beyond this manifested world with all these millions of galaxies put together. That is the realm of immortality. That is why you need to practice manana, to really feel the vibe in these mantras. When you contemplate, when you reflect, when you practice manana, you begin to understand the magnitude of the supreme Purusha beyond this expression. Then what will be the impact on your personality? What happens is, it dilutes our individuality. It dilutes our ego. When our individuality or the ego gets diluted, that is the moment we begin to experience a deeper sense of joy, satisfaction, contentment. What prevents us from experiencing the bliss of divinity is the sense of identity, I. So when Purusha Suktam explains the glory, the magnificent expression of the supreme reality, we begin to understand, my God, what am I? The other day, somebody forwarded me a little video clip about the Prime Minister of India, Modi ji, Narendra Modi ji. Maybe some of you must have seen it actually. The interviewer asked him the question. The question was, how would you like to be remembered? What would be your legacy? How would you like to be remembered? And he laughed, a prime minister just laughed at that question. And then he explained. He said, you all know about Vedas, right? We're studying Vedam. Vedas have no authors. Vedas, as you know, is the oldest text known to mankind. Of course, it is compiled by sage Vyasa. Before that, it was only passed from guru to disciple, father to children, through word of mouth. And sage Vyasa compiled in the book form as the three Vedas, and later sage Atharvan compiled the Atharva Veda. That's why on the Guru Purnima day, we revere sage Vyasa. Guru Purnima, as you know, is the birthday of sage Vyasa. It is also called Vyasa Purnima. So he said, those outstanding galaxy of sages and saints, not one or two, a gamut of them, none of them had the desire to leave a legacy. They selflessly, with an extreme sense of selflessness, they gave out this truth. Who am I to create a legacy? If at all I need to leave a legacy, it is for my country. You know, that is the greatness of that man. Don't get me wrong, I do not have any political allegiance to any particular political party or what, but of course I have full allegiance to my country, my Janma Bhumi, of course, that is India, and South Africa where I'm living is happen to be my Karma Bhumi. My Karma Bhumi is all over because I go out wherever I can to impart this knowledge. So why Purusha Suktam expounding these truths is the impact on your personality is to dilute your individuality, because all our problems, whether you have marital problem, you're not able to get along effectively well with your spouse or children or anybody for that matter, or if you are stressed about business and profession, all those problems are caused by your individuality, which we call ego. So when we begin to understand that, my God, this individual is a tiny speck in the magnitude of this expression of this Purusha. So Tripadasya Amritam Divi, meaning beyond the manifested world, is the realm of immortality that one day we need to eventually experience. And then he continues in the next mantra 4. Now, this mantra onwards, the Purusha Suktam is trying to explain the theory of creation, how the world is created. Now, if you have heard me carefully, I said the theory of creation. It is not a law of creation that you can experiment in the laboratory. It is a theory, it's an exposition. And our Shastras gives out two types of theories of creation. All right? One is called Sadhyo Srishti, that is instant creation. And the other one is Krama Srishti, that is gradual sequential development of creation. So from the absolute sense, instant creation, it is called Sadhyo Srishti. For example, rope and snake. When you do not understand the rope as the rope, the ignorance of the rope creates the misapprehension or the misconception of the snake. Non-apprehension of the rope creates the misapprehension of the snake. Instant creation. That is from the absolute point of view, from the God's realization point of view. The moment you understand the rope, the snake disappears. Snow and snake never coexist. The moment you understand what you're seeing is Not a snake, it is a rope. The illusion of snake disappears. So this is called Sadhyo Srishti. Krama Srishti is a sequential development of this creation. Now, that is from the relative, from our point of view. From our individual who's experiencing the manifested world, he's giving us the Krama Srishti, how the world is created. Now, when Purusha Suktam explains the theory of creation, remember, it is not a validation to say that the world is created, because when you go to the Upanishad, he says the world was never created. It is just a mithya, it's a maya, it's an illusion. But then you and me are experiencing, how is it? So those spiritual seekers, the aspirants, are really tortured, as it were, by the query. How did this world come about? When did this world come about? Who created this world? Just to quench the curiosity, to appease the curiosity of that such seeker, you'll find there are many, many theories of creation. When you go to the Bible, there is a theory of creation. Adam and Eve, Adam ate the apple, etc. All those are simply put a cock and bull story, that's all. When we really understand the essence of that Purusha, the world was never created. But still, we need to understand. So this verse onwards, he's giving a couple of verse mantras here. He's giving us the gradual sequential development of this creation. He says, Tripadurdhva Udait Purushaha. 3/4 of the Purusha is beyond comprehension. It's an extension of the mantra that he discussed previously. 3/4 of this manifestation is beyond comprehension. It is urdhva. Urdhva means above, meaning it's beyond our understanding, beyond our conception. And then he says, Pado asyeha abhavat punaha. The world is only a fraction of his glory, the glory of that Supreme Purusha. This entire creation, destruction, and maintenance, that happens every day. The construction, creation, destruction, maintenance happens every day, every moment. And not only it happens every day, it happens every week, every month, and every year. And then different yugas. Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. When the 4 yugas are over, then the pralaya happens. The entire dissolution and creation. Now, all this magnificent expression that we see is only a fraction of his glory. Tato Vishwagumvya Kramat Sashana Nashane Abhi. He then entered deep into the world of sentient and insentient. He says, 3/4 of the Purusha is beyond comprehension. Just as, let us say you went for a picnic in desert, and it so happened on a hot summer day, you walk into the desert. And in that desert, you can only see vast expanse, miles and miles of sand, nothing else, bright sand. And it so happens that you're so weary and tired and you did not carry water, forgot. And in this hot sand, you can see the mirage, reflection of the sand, total internal reflection, as they call it. You can see water. You think water is just yonder. And you go there, the water recedes. So that mirage, which you see as water, hot sand, you say that is sand, but sand is not confined to the mirage. it is well beyond. The sand is not wet by that water. Just as the mirage water does not wet the sand, this world that we are experiencing does not affect that Supreme Purusha. 3/4 of the Purusha is beyond the comprehension. It's above. It is, this Purusha remains unaffected. And Pado asyeha abhavat punaha. The world is only a fraction of his glory. And having thus, he entered deep into the world of sentient and insentient. Literally, the words that used here are sashana nashane abhi. That is, those who eat food and those who don't eat food. So that is a poetical expression. Those who eat food represents the living beings, the three kingdoms: vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the human kingdom. And those who don't eat food, or that becomes the food, is the mineral. The mineral kingdom becomes food for the vegetable kingdom, and vegetable becomes food for the animal kingdom. Animal become food for the human kingdom, or the highest. All right. I'm not saying it is what do you call this? Animals are consumable. What I'm saying is that in the hierarchy. All right. So those who eat food, living kingdom, and mineral, inert matter. So thus, having entered into the world of living beings, things and beings. So that is the import of Krama Srishti. It is, although we'll be analyzing this Krama Srishti, what we need to understand is that it is quietening the mind of the earnest spiritual seekers. And when we go to some of the other suktams and go to the Upanishads, etc., the world is a mithya. Then how do we see it? It is like where there is a rope, you see the snake. Snake is an illusion. And then he continues the discussion in the 5th mantra.
Tasmat virada jayata virajo adipurushaha sajato atyarichyata paschat bhumimato puraha.
Tasmat virata ajayata. From him emerged the cosmos. The name for cosmos is Virat. And then he says, Virajo ati Purushaha. From Viraj, from cosmos, the first creator, Purushaha. All right? It's actually Purusha, not Purusha, Purushaha. Earlier, he used the word Purusha. Here, Pu has a dirgham, that is Purushaha, plural. Purusha is singular, Purushaha is plural. The first creator came into being. So, Virajo Adi Purushaha, Vividham Rajate Viraja. Vividham Rajate means different ways it shines. So this manifested world expressed differently. Therefore, it is Viraja. Sajato Atyarichyataha. Having emerged thus, he pervaded the entire universe. Paschat Bhumim Atho Puraha. Later, then he created this earth and various bodies for all beings. So, Tasmat Virat Ajayada. From him emerged the cosmos. Reading from the previous mantra, where he said the Purusha is 3/4 of the Purusha is beyond the comprehension. And from that Supreme Purusha emerged this cosmos, Virat. Virat is the entire living beings that are awake in the world. That is let's put it this way, the first blueprint of all the living beings in all the creation. Virat. And from Virat, Viraja, of this multifarious expression, Adi Purusha, plural. All right, Purusha, singular. There is only one Purusha. Purusha means this various expressions. And then he goes on expanding. Having emerged thus, he pervaded the entire universe, and then he created Bhumi, the globe. Right? They knew at that time that the globe was the way it is, Bhumi, round. Bhumi literally means round also, right? Paschad Bhumim Atho Puraha. Pura means city. Remember, Purusha eteti, Pura eteti Purusha. Pura means city. The city refers to the physical body. Not only this body, there are different types of physical bodies or different types of being. There are sattvic beings, people who are highly sattvic, the sages. Then there are people who are highly rajasic, the human beings. And then highly tamasic people, they are the asuras. Different types of human beings emerged out of it. All right. So he continues the explanation of the theory of creation, and then gradually he moves on to explaining that this whole cosmos, whole universe works in the spirit of yajna. It's one of the most fascinating concepts, not only in Purusha Suktam. The concept of yajna is explained in the Bhagavad Gita and many other shastras. And for Hindus, it is very, very dear, very close to us, the concept of yajna, fire worship. So that yajna, the fire worship that we perform, has got very deep spiritual as well as philosophical significance, but also great benefit at the physical level, mental level, intellectual level, at all levels of personality. If we understand and perform that yajna properly. But he's going to tell us later on that the whole universe is in a process of yajna. All right. So I will take up some questions from you. I let you pose some questions. You can pose the question either unmute yourself, I can hear you, or you may want to type your question. Either way, all right? But I prefer you speak to me so that at least I feel the presence of an audience gives you some kind of comfort. Because you remember, I'm not really used to speaking to the camera. I'm getting used to that thanks to Corona, some of the benefits of that. So before I get into taking up your questions, I just want to make a few announcements, right? One is, those of you who want to listen to some of my discourses, live presentations, they're available in the audio and video format, and you have it, it's available to buy online, all right? You can buy it through the medium of Vimeo, V-I-M-E-O. The DVDs like Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. You know, Yoga Sutra is another fascinating shastra. Now, a lot of people think yoga is the physical exercise that you stretch and pranayama, etc. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, he talks about 8 aspects of yoga: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Most people only perform, pranayama and yoga, asana. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, 3rd and 4th. What about rest of the other 6? They don't. And other 6 are more psychological. So if you want to listen to Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, again, it is not the entire, the especially sadhana path that is the most important. It's available. You can buy it online through Vimeo. And there are many other topics, including many motivational topics also. As you may know, I also speak in the corporates and management
institutions, etc., based on our Vedic philosophy. So some of the literature includes 8 C's of excellence, the power of positive mental attitude, discourses on the Bhagavad Gita, Bhajagovindam, and there are various titles. The law of karma, right? 8 daily practices for life mastery. And then please subscribe to my YouTube channel, MK Angajan. All right, please go there. So we'll be posting videos and talks every now and then, so you'll be notified. So don't forget to press the button as well. So please subscribe. And then there is going to be an upcoming lecture series. All right, there's going to be an upcoming lecture series on the Bhagavad Gita, that is vision of the Bhagavad Gita. You know, in South Africa, you know, the Krishna Janmashtami is on the 12th of August. So the Hindus in South Africa, it's an entire 8 days of celebration. All right, all the mandirs and religious institutions, Hindu religious institutions, of course, are, you know, bristling with activity for entire 8 days. So we usually have 8 days discourses. So this time, starting from the 5th August to the 12th August, the discourses and vision of the Bhagavad Gita, and the exposition will be relevant to the present context that you and me, or generally as the world is going through with the pandemic, etc. From 7 to 8:15 my time, that will be about, 6 hours. You work backwards. All right. The Central African time, 7 o'clock. I think you work backwards. It'll be 6 hours behind. You are 6 hours behind, right? So you work your time, and it's going to be in the evening, and it's available on YouTube Live, not on Zoom. And then we also have, it'll be 1 o'clock. For you, it's 1 o'clock during the day. It's a working day. So those of you are able to catch me on YouTube Live, please do so. And we have the study classes every Tuesday, study of the Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta. And that's again online. But that is a commitment. It is not something that you can just attend 1 week and don't attend 2 other weeks, etc. If you make a commitment, you got to be regular, and it's like a universal study, a university course. Yeah? You have to write your assignment, and you go through that. We have about 40 odd students. I'm very careful in selecting who attend that classes, because unless you have that mokshatva, that burning desire for liberation, you won't have the commitment. You know, when a lot of people are interested in that particular session. I'm not interested in people who are interested. If you're interested, you will attend when it's convenient to you. Whereas if you are committed, you will attend whatever it takes. All right. So that's what's happening on every Tuesday. All right. So those are the few announcements. Now I will move over to questions. I see there seem to be a few questions. Yes. Question from Sri Ramapucha. I'm not able to comprehend what you explained on Tasmat Virama Mara Virado Adipurusha. Purusha is the cosmic energy. So does the Purusha here means the human or life form? Tasman Virata Jayade. So does the Purusha here means the human or life form? The expression of everything. Remember, education moves from known to the unknown. We do not know what the Supreme Purusha, which is everywhere, which is all-pervading. In order to know that all-pervading Supreme Purusha, he's trying to make us understand that Supreme Purusha through what is known. All right. So what is known is the world, you and me, the living beings. So that Purusha is not only all-pervading, that Supreme Purusha is also functioning in me, in you, the Atma, the divinity. So the divinity that is in you is the same divinity that is all-pervading, just as the electricity that is in the light bulb above you is the same electricity that is all over America or all over the world. So with reference to the individual, with reference to the light bulb, I say electricity is behind the light bulb. But electricity is not confined to this light bulb here. It is all over. So to answer your question, does Purusha mean the human or the life form? This life form is an expression of that Purusha. All right. Can you please send us the YouTube links? I wonder which links are you suggesting? But if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you will automatically be notified about the discourses, or whenever we upload our YouTube channels, YouTube videos, etc. So that'll be more convenient to you. And of course, don't forget to press the bell icon. Excellent discourse, thank you. What about the concept of the world or samsara being Maya? Now, those concepts of Maya will be discussed as we go along. All right. Remember the two srishti, right? Sadhyo srishti and karma srishti. When it comes to sadhyo srishti, we talk about the concept of Maya. The snake is Maya, illusion. Rope is the reality. Similarly, the Purusha is the reality. The world is simply an illusion, Maya. All right. Any other question, if you may want to speak out? In Swaminarayan temple, we see twin form of Narayana. Is that expression of Adi Purusha and Virata Purusha? All right. Twin form has to be Virata Purusha, because Adi Purusha will be only one. You know, in manifestation there is plurality. In the original Adi Purusha there is unity. There is no duality there. Right? If there are no questions,
So Brother Angajan,
my humble sairam to one and all of you. Thank you very much. We'll conclude with Shama Prarthana, and we will meet you next week, Saturday, at the same place and same time. All right. On behalf of the Untitled Foundation, I express my joy, blessings, and gratitude to every one of you to have joined us. Thank you. We conclude with the Shama Prarthana.
Om Yadakshara Padabhrashtam Matra Heenam Tu Yadbhave Tat Sarvam Shamyatam Deva Narayana Namosute Visarga Bindu Matrani Padapadaksharani Cha Nyunani Chatiriptani Kshamasva Saishwara Aparada Sahasrani Kriyante Harnishamaya Daso Yamiti Mahamatva Kshamasva Saishwara Anyata Sharanam Nasti Tvameva Sharanam Mama तस्मात् कारुण्य भावेन रक्ष रक्ष साईश्वर हरि ओम तत्सत् श्री साईश्वरार्पणमस्तु ओम शांति शांति शांति।